Hello, Jeff. Excuse me. We've got your carburetors finished. I like to run over a few things before we start them up. Features. Let's see. We've got new throttle shafts, new butterflies. The throttle shafts ride in bushings where they didn't ride in bushings before. All of our mounting surfaces have been machined. We've got factory gaskets, which you can tell because they're red. Factory red gasket here. The idle mixture screws, the factory did a miserable job of machining these, and as you know, the carburetor runs on the idles on the first barrel only. So these idle mixture screws have been blanked off, and these screws are dummies, so don't touch these. There's no reason to touch these at all. These are the only screws that you would need for adjusting, and even then should not be necessary because I'm adjusting the carburetors for you. We got helicoils installed here, and an accelerator pump bodies. All of our steel parts have been CAD plated as per original. Let's see, make some notes here. Oh, yeah, there's some. Okay, when you're, let's see. Let me go ahead and mount this up here. Now then, when installing the carburetors and installing the fuel lines, always use two wrenches. One to secure the fitting in the float bolt cover, and then the other wrench to turn your fitting up here. That way you don't take the chance of ripping the threads out. Let's see. Always use new carburetor to intake manifold gaskets, factory gaskets. Tighten the carburetors in a crisscross fashion to eliminate any tension or stress on one ear. Let's see. Fuel system is very important on these carburetors. You need to make sure you got a new fuel filter, a factory fuel filter, and a clean fuel tank and clean gas. If you see any red sediment in your fuel, that's not dirt, that's dust. It'll look red or brown. So make sure the fuel is clean. I suggest an extra inline fuel filter. The factory fuel filter is not very good. Then tuning the carburetors, these are all tuned. If you need to tune them, the initial settings are on the idle mixture screws are 1.5 turns out. You just screw it down until it bottoms. Just screw it down gently, and then you back down 1.5 turns. And the same with the initial setting for your idle mixture screw, 1.5 turns down to once it contacts the once it contacts the lever for the butterfly, screw it in 1.5 turns, and I'll get your initial idle speed. You always warm up the engine operating temps. Adjust the airflow into the first barrel, make sure they're drawing the same air, make sure the second barrels are not drawing any air or as little as possible. You screw your idle mixture screws down until the engine starts to stumble, and you screw them back out until it stumbles and you find your midpoint. Periodically blip the throttle to clear the engine. The G55 idle jet, which is on top here, and it's the only jet that has a slot for a screwdriver and a hex for a wrench. That's what handles the idle, and that's the only thing it does. So if the car will start and accelerate but dies at idle, it's because you got a little tiny microscopic fleck of debris in the idle mixture jet, in the idle jet, and all you have to do is unscrew that idle jet and blow it out, and then replace it. And if you don't have the ability to blow it out, then you can just swap the idle jet from the second barrel and put it in the first barrel, and you'll be ready to rock and roll. Now we're going to test the engine. We got us a cold engine. I do mean cold because it's about 33 or 34 degrees out right now. So we're going to check our choke. Well, that's another thing to make sure we have really nice working chokes. This is your main choke lever with a big spring on. This is your slave, and everything works great. And what you'll notice is when you operate the choke, you're actually opening up the throttle. And there's a little teeny screw jam nut in the back that controls the amount of opening of the throttle when you open the choke, when you operate the choke. And there's an interrelationship between the idle speed and the choke mechanism. And so if you go changing idle speed, just make sure your choke is operating correctly and you're not having the choke actuated prematurely. I don't think that should be a problem. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do a cold start and see how we're doing here. We're going to rev it up and see if we can get some water temperature. As you can see, it's cold. Thermostat just opened up. Got a nice idling engine. What we're going to do now, we're going to check to see how our second barrel is closing, and there's like 2.5, which is great. And now we're going to check to see if our first barrels are synchronized, and you always want to disconnect your linkage. See that? Yeah, disconnect the linkage so we're not getting a false reading by the linkage being out of adjustment. And so we check here. We got 4.25 approximately. Check here, 4.25 approximately. If you want to, now right now we got a really nice idle at about 700. So if you want to adjust the idle, obviously you put my finger underneath here, make the idle, just screw the idle screws in the same amount. So we'll go like a quarter turn there, bump your idle up a little bit, and come back and check how well we did. We got 5 there, and there's 4 3/4, so. And there's 5. This is a great tool. The Synchrometer, you can get them online on Amazon. And what you want is the Synchrometer BK2-40. You don't need any adapters. Just the way it comes is great. But that's about 900, and I don't want it that high of an idle, so I'm going to back it off. And to 4.25. 4.25. Now, what you want to do is make sure that when you reattach the throttle rod, the does not change your idle, and that's why the throttle rod is on it as a turnbuckle. So I've already adjusted this. We're going to snap it in place. Idle does not appear to have changed. Alright, we're still running 4 1/4 here, 4 1/4 there. That's a nice running engine. Nice carburetors. Got a hot restart. Those are a nice set of carburetors. I'm sure you really enjoy those. Thank you.